Well, that was awful, sucked, was horrible to watch, was a Christmas nightmare, or some silly Rudolph pun that you're going to hear over the next 24 hours. Mason Rudolph and the Steelers beat the Bengals. My thoughts on a 34-11 beatdown in Pittsburgh. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and well, that was the worst thing we've seen in quite some time. Jake Browning comes back down to earth. This Bengals defense is still getting beat over the top. I think Andrew Fox Miller might have caught a pass or two had Mason Rudolph thrown it his way. And this Bengals team falls to 8-7 on the season, 31-11. And it didn't really feel that close, and it felt like it could have been worse. And I'll start with the start. The fact that this Bengals team on the second play from scrimmage for the Steelers gives up an 86-yarder to George Pickens. That cannot happen. I don't care if the Steelers had 20 guys on the field. Pickens shouldn't have been that open. And yet he was. And it was a really just comical errors-wise on that play. First off, DJ Turner he gets beat. So you start there. Second, Dax Hill takes a bad angle, slips, and ends up getting in DJ Turner's way. And then it's Pickens off to the races. The guy that, let's be honest, has taken his fair share of criticism. The guy that probably was at his tipping point. Now suddenly he gets a touchdown and there is no tipping point. Now suddenly an offense that was struggling feels really good about itself. And that's where this game just went to hell. Right there. And that cannot be something that the defense allows. It cannot happen, because when that happens, guess what? The crowd gets into it. George Pickens is feeling himself. Mike Tomlin hugs him. And just like that, all is well in Pittsburgh. And I said going into this game how hard it was going to be. You have the Steelers against with their back against the wall on their home field. It was going to be hard. But I wasn't expecting the dud that was 31-11 and the dud that was the struggles on defense. Jake Browning coming back down to earth. I think we knew that he wasn't going to be this historical quarterback each and every week. And he turned the ball over, and he's a big part of why they lost. His 3 turnovers, 2 of them led to 10 points for the Steelers, and then 3 of them, and I'll go interception by interception in just a second, led to what should have been a field goal for the Bengals. And instead, the Steelers got the ball back with a 7-0 lead and ended up scoring actually 10 plays, 80 yards on that drive to take a 2-score lead. It was complimentary football at its worst for the Bengals. The defense struggled to tackle. They were getting beat up on the ground without DJ Reader, and they gave up big plays, and they did not force turnovers. Meanwhile, the offense moved the ball but couldn't score and did turn the ball over. And when you combine those, that's what you get. You get an awful performance. You get a beatdown. You get an 8-7 record, and on the outside looking in playoff-wise. And at some point, we'll talk about their playoff chances, but let's wait and see how the rest of this week goes, this Week 16 slate. That was awful. And reality set in. How much is too much? Well, maybe the losses of DJ Reader and Jamar Chase combined with the losses that they've already had, including Joe Burrow. Maybe that's too much for this team. Maybe they weren't going to be able to overcome it. But I look at some of these stats, and it is tough. Mason Rudolph, let's start with him. He started 4 for 4 for $130 in the first quarter in that touchdown. He finishes the game 17 of 27 for 290 yards and 2 touchdowns, had a 124 quarterback rating. I'll say that again, had a 124 quarterback rating. How does that happen? I don't know, but it did happen. The Steelers ran for 2 touchdowns on the ground. They ran for 113 yards total. Najee Harris averaged over 4 yards a carry. And a lot of those numbers were much better when the game was going on. And in garbage time, they went down a bit. But this Bengals team did not come out from the jump and play the way they needed to play. This defense needed to have a chip on its shoulder without DJ Reader, and it didn't feel like they had that. It felt like they were on their heels the entire game. The offense moved the ball, but they turned the ball over early. And when you do that and you're on the road and your defense is playing the way your defense is playing, you can't overcome it. And Jake Browning, he's flawed. That's it. And they were pointing it out on the broadcast that going from man to zone. Look, fine. Quarterbacks get confused. They make mistakes, but no quarterback should try to throw the ball away. And I'm not sure if he did try to do that. I think that's what he was trying to do on that first interception. And it's a punt to Patrick Peterson. I mean, that's what it was. Speaking of Andrew Fox Miller catch, he could have caught that. And he's butterfingers, man. That dude can't catch. He would have caught that ball. And so when things like that are happening, you're just like, oh, well, that's it. And then the Bengals, to their credit, 24-0 at halftime. It's the Steelers' biggest lead since 2020. 24 points is the most points in the first half that they scored this season. Never gotten close to that this year. Heck, their 31 points is a season high as well. But the 24 at halftime, and the Bengals come out, the defense gets a stop, in the offense, boom, quick strike to T. Higgins. And you get the 2-point conversion, a really nice play by Jake Browning. And then what happens? The defense gets beat again. And George Pickens answers, and that is it. Coffin nails, if you want to use the Dave Lapham and Dan Horde line, but it is the Dan Horde line, actually. Lapham is the bam, bam, bam. And they didn't get to say that, obviously, because the Bengals, they dug themselves a hole. And when you start like that on the road against the team that is desperate, like Pittsburgh was, and I knew they would be. I knew this wouldn't be a good game, from a aesthetically pleasing game. I didn't think that the Bengals were just going to go to Pittsburgh and drop 35. I thought it would be ugly. But I thought that they would be able to withstand those momentum swings like they had really throughout this stretch. Even that first game against Pittsburgh that they lost, they were in the game and they stayed in the game. This past 3 weeks, they've responded to adversity. And on Saturday, it was just too much. This Bengals team, they were bound to come back down to earth at least a bit. Things weren't going to continue to be just awesome where they find a way to go in and blow out the Steelers. They weren't going to do that. But I thought that they were going to respond the right way to that adversity like they had done during this streak. And it did not happen tonight. Will it change? Will they be able to go to Kansas City with their backs against the wall and win? Maybe. But when you turn the ball over 3 times, you run for 3.7 yards per carry, and a lot of that was in garbage time. Mixon had a couple runs late that juiced up his numbers. He finished with 43 yards. Chase Brown with 16 yards. Just an awful game. Awful game. I will get to a couple bright spots here. I think that Chase Brown, only 4 carries. I would have given him more. I thought he was running the ball hard and finding yards that weren't necessarily there. This Bengals team clearly struggles to run the ball against Pittsburgh. And that was something, especially in the first half, it made a lot of sense to me to get him the ball more. That did not happen. T. Higgins was obviously a bright spot, the 80-yard catch, juiced things up a bit, but still 5 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown. And then special teams. Look, Evan McPherson made the 35-yarder. He's perfect on kicks of 49 yards or less this season. And he's 17 for 17. He's missed 5 kicks, has a ton of 50-yard attempts. He's 7 of 12 from 50. He's been really good. And then Brad Robbins was pretty good today. 2 inside the 10-yard line, 1 inside the 5-yard line late with a really good bounce. Hopefully he can build off of that because obviously he's had his struggles. But overall, this team, I expected more urgency. I don't want to question everything because this is a team that was rolling coming into today. At the same time, you get off to a start like that where you don't tackle Pickens and you have the explosive. And then you have a turnover. And you look up and it's a double-digit lead for the home team, and you're trailing and you're trying to respond. And over the past couple of weeks, they have been able to do that, but they could not do that tonight, falling to 8-7 on the season. Their playoff hopes roughly 15% right now. When you look at the analytics behind it, that could change obviously with what happens with the rest of this week. But this was a Christmas nightmare, certainly, for this Bengals team and their playoff chances taking a huge hit. We will have you covered when it comes to the Bengals. If there's any breaking news over the next couple of days, we have you covered here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. And we will also update you on the playoff picture when it's time to do that. But we also want you to enjoy the holiday and have a Merry Christmas and enjoy time with your family. And we really appreciate you subscribing to this channel. So thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. And for Andrew Fox Miller, a.k.a. Butterfingers, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now. Merry Christmas from Cincinnati Bengals Talk.